So David, Michael, Peter, welcome. How are y'all doing this afternoon or this morning, depending on wherever you are? And John, glad to have y'all with us. We're going to give it about a minute or two. We'll probably start right at 1 minute after the hour because John has so many. He's going to go through 5 copilots. There's a ton to cover. Had some great questions. Want to thank Michael from our great customer from Ameris. You have a really good question. John was saying just before we started that this is changing so quickly on Microsoft Learn every week. It's going to be really fresh right now, but it'll be changing. So we'll give you the what we know at the moment, but that's really appreciate you all thinking this through and trying the solutions. I've been using Copilot in both. For me, the Copilot with Excel and also with PowerPoints have been just fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to show both of those, Rich. I've got a Word, an Excel, and a PowerPoint mini demo set up. Fingers crossed, right? I have so many demos racked up. This is like I've had to print them out, right? So like when you can't see them. There we go. I've had to print out the sequence of demos, which is because there's just so many that we want to show, and hopefully everything will go great. You know, when we start actually using Copilot, we'll be at the mercies of the internet and Azure and Copilot, etc. It's been fairly responsive for me this morning. I tested it out, and it's looking okay.
That's great. Do you want to pop up your first slide where there's so many Copilots, John, so we can give a little placeholder as people come in, and otherwise they're staring right at you in my face.
Yeah.
It's not. There a couple of geezers.
How's that?
That's perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll leave that there. About one more. I think we're pretty much. Let's go because we've got welcome Alex and Andrew, Creighton, David, the two Davids, our colleague David Munson and Michael, and especially again, really grateful for Michael Johnson's terrific question. So we'll get started. Just want to welcome you all and appreciate you investing your time with us. We know how valuable your time is, and this is such a hot topic. We're grateful that John can talk about so many Copilots. He's just been frantically, as we just showed us a second ago, had to print out hard copies of all these demos to walk him through. And we also want to congratulate John. He is an Azure MVP, has been for 17 years, but kind of won a double gold in the Microsoft MVP Olympics just a couple of weeks ago because John added the credential of MVP in cloud security. And he's going to teach us today about all these different Copilots and how they potentially bring value to your company, how to engineer the prompts. I mean, we're getting hallucinations. So some prompt engineering will be helpful today and several demos. But we just want to encourage everyone to, we have 4 or 5 really great questions that actually John had to do some research on. Thank you, William. Carl is and Michael Johnson. I see William just joined. Thank you, William, for your question. So John will answer those questions that you've entered when you registered for the webinar. But also, we want to make sure that session really targets your unique requirements. So please post more questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat, and then when John takes a little breath, I'll pop in and ask that question. And he's not scripted at all, so he can take these demos. If you want to spend more time on one Copilot versus another, whatever will be most helpful to you, we really want this session to be targeted. And then after the webinar, my colleague Bush Williams and I, we're happy to schedule a call, discuss your unique IT stack, ways to harness the power of AI at your company and optimize your use of Microsoft solutions or your licensing spend. So Commander Joyner, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and kick right into it, I think? Dive right into what you're going to teach us.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Yeah, people call me Commander because I'm a retired U.S. Navy officer. So I'm getting used to that. Once you guys discovered that that's what they used to call me back in the day at Microsoft, now I'm getting called it at accountability. So welcome everyone to our session today. So many Copilots. John Joyner here, the Senior Director of Technology and Accountability, and as Rich kindly introduced me, a 17-year Microsoft MVP, most recently dual awarded in Azure Management and Cloud Security. So we're doing these monthly webinars, and we picked the topics a couple months in advance, and we've had so much demand for Copilot topics. I said, okay, I'll do it. I will make a session on Copilots, and I called it So Many Copilots because There are a lot. I was just at one of the countless Microsoft training and familiarization sessions that they make available for partners and MVPs. And internally at Microsoft, they're up to 117 Copilots. But today we're just going to look at 5, and maybe and we're going to take a peek at a 6, but we won't see a demo on it. But we're going to see the ones that I've found most useful, and certainly I recommend to all of our customers, all of our general business customers, and our security customers that you are familiar with the ones we're going to talk about today, and in particular the things that I'm going to cover. I think I'll go to. Oh, there we go. We've introduced ourselves. Y'all know me and Rich. Okay, thank you. Here we go. Today's agenda. Yeah, here's I want to make everybody understand. First of all, like, what are they? What are the current names of them? It's like musical chairs or cakewalk. Microsoft is literally changing the names of these products very frequently as they internally organize and staff. So I want you to know what the Copilot products are called. And then how to turn them on and off and how much they cost. Like, those are the number one things that like IT admins and security admins at customers want to know. And then some samples, right? So that when somebody asks you about Copilot for, what's the difference between Copilot for Windows and Copilot for Microsoft 365, or do you all even know what Copilot for Azure is? I'm going to show you. If you're going to, it's certainly the box on the left. Those 5 types of Copilots we're going to try and cover within each of the cases of those 5 Copilots. The 4 items on the right. How much they cost, how to turn them off, how to use them, and some samples. So that's what we're going to try and cover in the next 45 minutes. All right. So starting out with this slide, this is a stock image for Copilot, and I just wanted to start at a high level, because actually when you go to Redmond and you talk to the product teams, they put a lot of stock in the fact that Microsoft chose the word Copilot as an umbrella term for all of their AI application, directed AI products, and they're very proud of the word Copilot. I don't think it's a bad word, and a Copilot, when we look at the dictionary definition, it's a qualified pilot who assists or relieves the pilot but is not in command. And that relationship between pilot and Copilot is very much guides Microsoft's philosophy on where does Copilot sit. It's an assistant. It's an assistant to you. It's an assistant to your organization. It can relieve you of burden to perform specific tasks, but it is not by any stretch of the imagination right now capable of being you, and taking over for a person or for a business unit. Copilot today is a group of many different Copilot types, and they are highly stratified, in what they do. And so it's, to take advantage of the Microsoft Copilot ecosystem today, you have to know what the Copilots are, all the different ones, and then what, it's literally like you're the captain and you have a half dozen Copilots on your flight, right? And you pick one to do specific tasks, but not any one of them, even all 6 of the Copilots together don't replace a pilot. So that's where it comes in at a high level. So let me pull out the questions quickly, and I think almost most of them I'm going to answer in the session, right? I wanted to cover the privacy questions, okay? William Carl had some very specific questions on what Microsoft does, with your data, and Microsoft has been proud of their Copilot products because from their inception, the data that you use in a Copilot session is not used to train Copilot. Microsoft develops and influences Copilot independent of actual customer input to the product, and you might think, well, Microsoft has made their job harder. Yes, they have, but they have created a line in the sand that they don't cross, and so in all the different versions of Copilot, some versions of Copilot remember your sessions, right? They have a prompt history and a session history, so you can pick up back where you were and see what your interactions with Copilot have been. But none of the Copilot products take your information and and put it in, disappear the information into somewhere that it might get mixed up, and reused. And you might lose some IP or something. There's no possibility of that happening with any of the Copilot products, because the language models are not, the improvement of language models does not occur based on user prompts. The Copilot work and the M365 Copilot all inherit the security and privacy policies that you have with your other M365 services and with the roles that the user has. So, there's some other questions that I think this may have come from you. As Carl William asked this question as well: how you can implement measures to prevent data from being used or shared by users that don't have that have access to Windows Copilot. And the strategies primarily revolve around existing Microsoft tools for limiting information access. Remember, Copilot inherits the security posture of your environment. So data loss prevention, the Microsoft Data Loss Prevention suite of products under the Microsoft Purview umbrella, augmented by Defender for cloud apps, are the primary means of regulating what a user, if you have sensitive data, the Microsoft tool to protect that is their data loss prevention portfolio or Purview, and Copilot will respect Purview, based policies, just like all the rest of the Microsoft product suite. So there's not a special set of Copilot protections. Copilot fits into your enterprise security posture using existing tools. So I thought that was an interesting find. We don't have to relearn the new security fundamentals, to operate with Copilot. We just need to, if we have sensitive data that we don't want leaked, then deploy Purview. Michael Johnson asked if Copilot is ready to use, and the answer is yes. These are all ready to use solutions, right? They're all getting better, right? But none of them require anything special to get started using. They all work out of the box. They all provide utility out of the box, and the more you use them, the more useful they become. David Munson, you asked some questions about Copilot being configured to perform tasks automatically, and that occurs via Logic App. But I have a demo set up, completely ready to show you that when we get to that part. David, you also asked if Copilot is susceptible to AI hallucination problems, and the answer is yes, like any other AI. And you'll notice that throughout the Copilot product, when results are issued, there's a little disclaimer that this was AI generated and may contain errors. Human review is required, and that is absolutely true. In my experience using the Microsoft Copilot products, they are not susceptible to gross hallucinations. It's not like if you ask about movies, you get an answer about camels. But sometimes maybe 20% of the time, 20 to 40% of the time, the response will be off target. You'll ask about something related to Entra ID, and it'll give you an answer related to Windows Active Directory, and even though you said in your prompt, when interacting with Office or Azure, it still gave you an answer that was related to like your on-premise AD, which doesn't involve that question. So when that happens, yeah, that's an error, right? And you can generally shape the next response by saying, no, please give me a reply that is relative to Entra ID, not Active Directory. And so then the second response will be on target. So there is a mild, not a gross hallucination problem. I would call it more of a targeting error phenomena. But in my experience, you can 95% of the time, you can guide the Microsoft Copilots to what you want by iterative discussion with it. And very rarely I found it a few times, you'll just get to a dead end that the Copilot is just not giving you the answer that you want. And so just take a break and think about another way to answer your question. So let's move to the types of Copilot. So the first kind of Copilot is a Copilot for Windows. And there is sometimes called the free edition. And this is available for everybody that has Windows 11. It's also available for Windows 10. Copilot for Windows is available on Windows 10 with some limitations. You need Windows 10 version 22H2. And beginning with that update to Windows 10, Copilot for Windows becomes available just like it does on Windows 11. But Windows 11 is the primary place that it has all the features of the Copilot for Windows available. So the way that you access the Copilot for Windows, if you have a new Microsoft keyboard, hopefully you can see this because I can't even see my own camera. But here's a relatively new Microsoft keyboard. Here I'm out, and this is the Copilot key. This is the Copilot key, and when you push the Copilot key, it's going to pop up a Copilot pane. And if you don't have a nice modern keyboard with the Windows Copilot key, then it's easy to remember the Windows key and C for Copilot. So the Windows key and C, that pops up what we're looking at right now, the Copilot for Windows Web. And this, you can use this for all of the purposes seen on this slide. And in a second, we're going to go into a demo and we're going to exercise several of these capabilities. So at the low end, it's not that the Copilot for Windows Web is not powerful. It's super powerful. In some ways, it's my favorite Copilot because it's always there. Like it says, it's accessible on all my platforms, and I can do things with it like AI image creation and stuff. But so that's at the low end. We have the Copilot for Windows Web. Microsoft advertises this as, here's some of Microsoft's suggestions, on what you can do with the Copilot for Web. Have it help you write menus, help you, map out career change paths, etc. Then we come to the more industrial version of the Windows Copilot. It's Copilot for Windows Work. And this used to be called Bing Chat Enterprise. So if those of you that have been on board with the Microsoft AI stuff from the very beginning, you will recall that one of the very first things that became available for all of us, if you weren't in an insider or early access program, was called Bing Chat Enterprise. And you turned that on. You had to expressly enable it initially, and then it was automatically enabled. And at this point, you have to, if you don't want to use it, you have to opt out. So, I told you I would explain it, how to turn these various features on and off. And to turn off your user's access to Windows Copilot for Work, you have to do it at the OS level. And you can do that through group policy. There is actually an administrative template under Windows components called Windows Copilot. So those of you that are actively managing your environment with GPOs, if you want to prevent some of your users from having the Microsoft Copilot for Work widget available, you can turn it off. You can turn it off through group policy, and you can also turn it off if you're not using group policy. If your devices have Intune, you can go to Devices, Configuration Profiles in the Intune Admin Center, and you can create a profile with settings that disables Copilot. So you can turn both. You can turn the Windows Copilot off for your employees if you want to. And so now we're in the Windows 365 Admin Center, and this is where you can enable. When we're talking about how to control user access, there's not many settings right now to control user access, but one thing you can do is that you can prevent users from allowing Copilot to interact with other apps and plugins, or you can let users enable all apps and plugins as desired. So the main functionality that I've come across so far for this is web access. When you're using the Copilot prompts, there's a little button. I'll show it to you in the demo here in a quick second. To enable web searches, to enable your Copilot session to go out to the web and retrieve data. And if you can prohibit users from being able to for example, access that feature globally or for specific users. What we're looking at is the M365 Admin Center, where there's a dedicated area for Copilot. You can see in the lower left of this screen, you can see some of the Copilot features. And so, what we're looking at is the Copilot in Bing, Edge, and Windows. That's the first Copilot we're looking at. And in the context of the M365 Admin Center, we're talking about the Copilot for Windows Work. So right, ready for our first demo. Let me pop out and okay, so I'm actually going to very first start out with answering a privacy-related question that some of you asked about, a little bit about. You are in control of the Copilot interaction history. As I mentioned, your Copilots are, have a prompt and conversation history that you can review. And here in the my account area of your Office O365 user account, under Settings and Privacy, on the Privacy tab, there's a Copilot interaction history menu item that you can expose, and you can push this button and it will delete all of your personal Copilot conversation prompts and history. Otherwise, they remain available for you to review and look at in the future. When you return to the app with the same Copilot, there'll be a place where you can see, just like in your browser, your web browser has a history. Well, your Copilot interaction history is maintained as well, and you have control over it here via your Office user settings. So I'll just, from this page, I'll just invoke my Windows Copilot by pushing, I don't have a fancy keyboard hooked up to this machine, so I'm going to push the Windows and the C button, and it popped up my Copilot preview. And you can see up here the work and web personalities, right? So if I didn't have an M365 subscription associated with my user account, the work button would not be there. I would just have the web functionality. But now I have two functionalities, And the difference in the functionality is principally that there's actually quite a lot of differences. The Copilot for web is designed for general use and is available to all users, whereas the Copilot for Windows Work is only available to customers with M365. The Copilot for Windows Web can exclusively utilize web-based data sources, whereas the Copilot for Windows Work can also access data from inside your environment, such as emails and documents. The Copilot for Windows Web security and compliance, as I mentioned, the Copilot for Windows Work will follow your organizational security policies, whereas the Copilot for Windows Web has general security policies suitable for the consumer. So those are the differences, but there's so much that you can do with the web one. So, I had some examples. Like the first example is going to be to create a photo of a threatening robot that expresses people's fears about AI. Okay, that was our first demo. I'm using this. I use this for the first time preparing for this session, because I don't make interesting graphics out of AI at all in my personal or professional life. But a lot of people get a lot out of this. They get a lot of fun out of it, and my AI created these 4 images that express threatening AI, right? And and now I can right away, I'm prompted. I can do other things with the drawing, and shape what they look like until it's ready to use in the area that I wanted. So now I'm gonna. Here's another example. We're going to ask the Windows Copilot just a general question, and we're going to repeat this question in a second when we're doing the Word demonstration. And this is another example of how the Copilot can reach out to the web and answer your questions, like your web assistant. I was really impressed with the response on this one when I was preparing for the demo. I want to build a robot from spare parts. How can I get started? And it legitimately gave me a great set of instructions, a great set of links, and I think that I could actually get started building my own robot from this list of references and steps. Now, notice here. Now here, still in the web, I have a button right here. I can upload a file to this session. Like here, I have an Excel spreadsheet that has 10 movie titles. We're going to look at this spreadsheet again in a second when we do our Office demo. But I'm going to ask the web. I'm going to ask the web Office Copilot for Windows Copilot for Web a question that's going to require to analyze that file. What movie in this list has not been released yet? Okay, so this Excel spreadsheet has 10 movies in it. 9 of them are historical famous movies, and 1 movie in the list has not been released yet, and that's Alien Romulus, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. And so I thought this was really powerful. I took a document that I had, I had Copilot analyze the document and then go out to the internet and pull. It researched all 10 movies in my list and found out their release dates, and then discovered the one that wasn't released yet and accurately told me which one, and then told me when it is going to release. So that's some really powerful example of what the web one can do. The work one, I found this interesting. So what can the work one do that the web one can't? Okay, the work one has access to your Entra ID directory. It has access to your Office resources. It has access to company resources that aren't otherwise available. So I played around and I asked Copilot web version, who is my supervisor? This requires the work version to go into the accountability Active Direct Entra ID, and then the organizational field of my record, and then see who my supervisor is, which is accurate. It's our CTO, Paul Zaleski. So I thought that was pretty impressive that it was able to go into my directory. And in a very large organization, this stuff could be very powerful. I could say, which members of this team are also members of this other team. And so you can have the Copilot work version do research on your directory that helps you find the right people to do the right tasks. I can ask, when is my next meeting with Paul? Pretty powerful. Now it's searching my Outlook calendar for events with my supervisor. And quite accurately, I've got a meeting with them this afternoon. We got an Azure Monitor rollout going on, and we're having a check-in project meeting. So powerful, convenient, fast. I like it. I like it. Here's the last one I'll demo. What is an idea for a group activity in Little Rock area suitable for my team, include costs and time estimates? This is one of the advertised capabilities of the Copilot for Work, is suggesting morale events for your team, because it knows how big your organization is, and it will, so it's going to suggest venues. I thought this was interesting. Yeah, we've got these are all legitimate activities that we could do here in Little Rock for my team. So that's the two versions of the Windows Copilot. Pretty darn powerful. Pretty darn powerful. So Copilot Pro, we're not going to show a demo on this, but I'm just including this for complete, so that you may hear Copilot. Copilot Pro is the version of Copilot Work for individuals. So individuals, I think, I've got the slide here. It's available for individual purchase at $20 per user per month. Now we're about to dive into the Copilot for M365, which is like $30-some a month per user, that has an M365 subscription. But Microsoft makes a very affordable version for the consumer. And when we go next into the demo and chat about the Office Copilot, and I show you some examples of what it can do, then the light bulb may go off that for a home user, small office user, the ability to create presentations and documents and letters so rapidly and so impressively gives a huge advantage over similar, small businesses and individuals trying to do the same thing. Certainly, they can do it more with a lot more flair and a lot more insight, and with vastly less time. So that's Copilot Pro. So that's all we're going to spread on Copilot Pro, but I wanted you to know what it is and how much it costs. So now we're going to talk about Copilot for M365. Just as you can restrict users' ability to access the web with Copilot for Work, you can also restrict the Copilot you can prevent Copilot for Microsoft 365 from accessing the web. You know, if you have an extreme sandbox environment and you're extremely concerned about Copilot only accessing your internal resources, only asking it questions about your directory and your Office environment, and not any external web varieties, this is another setting in the M365 Admin Center that you can control and restrict the behavior of Copilot. Here's another place in the Admin Center, the M365 Teams Admin Center, and Copilot has its own setting. Those of you that have Copilot turned on in your environment and your Teams user, you know that this is a big deal setting. You know, when you have this turned on and you start Copilot, when you have this turned on and you start Teams, Copilot is going to offer to transcribe. It's going to offer to it's available for all kinds of features, and you can just enable what level of interaction that you want there, or turn it off. Now here are 3 slides. For those of you that are attending, you know, you're going to be able to get copies of this session. We're not going to spend hardly any time on these 3 slides, but these 3 slides detail exactly what you can do, what the vision is within each of the Office products for the M365 for Copilot for Microsoft 365 offering. You know, we're going to look at Word, PowerPoint, and Excel right now in our demo, and I touched on it in Teams. You know, how it can recap conversations, etc. Then Copilot for M365 is available in all of these other Microsoft products: Loop, OneNote, Power Platform. But just for completeness, I included this in the deck, and those of you that request the deck, you can have this list. How can you enable Microsoft Copilot? How can you purchase that extension? And basically, with all these, with every flavor of M365 Business and every flavor of M365 E3 and above. You know, so basically, you're not eligible to buy the add-in if you have only Office 365 without any M365 upgrades. I guess if you see the Office 365, I guess I'm now that I'm looking at it, the add-on subscription Copilot for M365 is available for Office 365, E1, E3, and E5 without Teams. So basically, for everybody that's got an Office subscription, you can add it on, okay? And yeah, here's the cost, $30 per user. Yeah, there we go. This is success. Any flavor of Office, any flavor of M365, any flavor of M365 Business. There we go. It's quite broad. They recently added the Office. It used to be just M365. So everyone with a subscription agreement for one of these Microsoft products can add licenses. And here in the lower right, you can see that this is actually at accountability. You know, we've bought 25. We bought 25 of these, and we've allocated all 25 of them. So just like any other Office product, you purchase it in your M365 admin portal, and then you allocate them to users. And at our company, we've allocated them to senior people and researchers like myself. And so that's how we would expect we don't expect hardly any company to deploy Copilot for M365 Office to every single employee. It would be quite expensive for a larger organization. But for your information workers, wow, it can do so much. I passed over this slide. I'll go back to it because you'll see there's also a thing called Copilot Studio that you're eligible to buy. See this slide, Copilot Studio is also able to purchase. Again, I'm covering it just so you'll wonder, what is that? Copilot Studio is for writing your own copilots, right? That's using the Microsoft AI models and applying to your app. So if your enterprise has written a line of business application and you would like to incorporate Microsoft Copilot features into that application in the same manner in which you see Copilot implemented in Windows and in Office, then Copilot Studio is the Microsoft product for you and your developer team. Okay. So now let's do a demo of our M365 Copilot, and I'll start out in Word. Opening a brand new Word document, and I've got because Copilot for M365 is enabled for me, I have a Copilot button over here, and I'm going to ask list the top 5 grossing movies in the last week. And it's going to create a Word document. It's going to go out to the internet, and it's going to find this information. Oh, I'm sorry. I put it in the wrong place. There we go. Well, it's a good demo. See, I asked the question over here in the right side pane, and it answered in the right side pane. But if I want the document to have it, then I would type it here. There we go. Now it's creating a document with the information that I wanted. So it's going out to the internet, performing a search, and now I've, by entering my prompt in the Word document, it's gone and done the research and populated my document with the information that I wanted. Now let's take a look at Excel. So here's that file that I mentioned, and see this colorized list that was created by Copilot. I'm gonna shoot. I want to get rid of the coloring. These are the movies that I mentioned, all of which were released except for the Alien Romulus, which is coming out next week. And I gave these movies an index in my mind of like how scary or violent they were. The Sound of Music and Cinderella being really low. Okay. So now I'll get rid of the example. So now I'm going to turn on my Copilot for Excel, and I'm going to tell Copilot that I want to colorize the list with red, yellow, green based on the total column. So, in Excel, unless you're working in Excel all the time, it can be hard to remember and learn all of the tips and tricks to do all the things you want. So here Copilot has said, yeah, I think you want to apply a color scale. Do you want to do it? It's got a question mark. You want to apply it? And I choose yes, and boom. Now it applied the scale, and the the safest ones have a red, and the scariest ones have green, but you can see that it applied a color range automatically to my thing, and I didn't have to go and learn what the Excel colorize commands were, right? So that's a useful example of Excel. I was letting you know, like here in the ask a question down here, there isn't much you can do in terms of Excel. If we go back to Word, you can see there's a little prompt, manage search and plugins, and this is where you can enable on a user basis whether you want your Word Copilot to be able to reach out to the web or not. You can turn that on. That's how the Word Copilot is a little more full featured than the Excel Copilot, because the Excel Copilot can't reach out to the web, but the Word one can. And then the last thing I want to show is for Office is a Office Copilot for this. I found this really impressive. So I'm going to create a presentation from a file, and the file needs to be in SharePoint. It can't be a local file. So I'm going to it's going to see that I have this movie. So this is that same list of movie titles, okay, that I created. So I'm going to create a presentation from the file, and I found this really impressive. This will take a quick second, and the Copilot for M365 in the PowerPoint environment is getting my Word document, which was itself produced by Copilot, and it's analyzing the document for what it is, and now it's generating the slides, adding speaker notes. And I just thought this was so slick. Look at this. I have a beautiful presentation. It's actually got movie themes, graphical elements in there. And here it's added the how much they grossed, right? I didn't ask it to include what the amount was, but the PowerPoint slide generation from the Word document augmented that with this additional interesting information, and it even selected a movie relevant theme. So that's an example of how some examples of how the Office Copilot can really save time and make you and your business more efficient. So now we're going to look at Copilot in Azure. I use Copilot in Azure all the time. Copilot in Azure is available, is the primarily appeal is to your Azure admins and your security admins that are using the Azure portal, and it's an Azure assistant. Here's use cases that, again, this is more for those of you that want to get our deck. I won't cover them all. I'm going to actually show them in the portal, what I use them for, but here's use cases with the various Azure services and what Copilot in Azure is good for. Copilot in Azure is no cost during a preview, and there may or may not be a charge in the future, but it's turned on for everybody right now. So let's look at Copilot in Azure. Here's Copilot in Azure, and I have a Copilot button there, and it exposes it in the frame over here. And the Copilot for Azure is all focused on your Azure subscription and all things Azure infrastructure. I can ask it, what is the most expensive virtual machine in my subscription? Okay, that's a relevant question. For a customer that has, if you have hundreds of machines, they're listed in the portal by their machine type, and they might be in different places. What you can see, what Copilot's doing is it's created a KQL that pulls out the VM size from the virtual machine objects and is summarizing them by the cost. And actually, I don't have any. I think I don't have any expense. I don't have any virtual machines in this subscription. They're all Azure Arc machines. But if you had a large environment, you can see how this saved you the time by generating the query and running it for you running it for you. What I use the Copilot for most often is, what is the KQL to discover how much my Microsoft Sentinel ingestion.
And we should say pretty much everybody knows that KQL is Kusto query language,
last month.
That may not be clear to everybody what KQLs are.
KQL is how is the Kusto query language is how we interact with Azure Log Analytics, which is the data lake repository for Microsoft Sentinel and Azure Monitor. So if you're using Azure Monitor or Microsoft Sentinel, you are using KQL, and
that's great, John. And also another question. Thank you, Michael, again for your questions at the top that were before the webinar. But Michael Johnson's also asking, how do you enable Copilot for Azure? Is it in the portal somewhere, or is it a free SKU?
Yeah, it's turned on automatically and is free for all Azure users at this time. So if you don't have the Copilot button up there right now, it will appear sometime soon. They're rolling it out, but it's free for everyone and on by default at this time. So now, gosh, we only have about 5 minutes, but we're going to do Copilot for security, and you know, this is the expensive one. If you run Copilot for security is provisioned by a security compute capability that costs $4 an hour per security compute unit. So if you have one compute unit and you run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you could have almost a $3,000 bill. And you can provision your security compute units a couple of ways. Again, this is most relevant. Please consult the deck if you download it for the details on these two methods. I'm going to show you right away in the demo how I use these two logic apps in my lab environment to control costs. Here's the link to these logic apps that'll be in the deck if you want to deploy these logic apps to your environment to turn Security Copilot SCUs on and off. There's a standalone experience for Copilot, which we're going to show, which is this https securitycopilot.microsoft.com. And then there's embedded experiences inside these products, and I've got a couple racked up to show you. So let's wrap up with a demo of the Copilots for security. So here's the logic app here's the two logic apps in my environment: SCU capacity create, SCU capacity delete. These are the two that are in that article that I referenced. And so when I want to start using Security Copilot, I come in here and I run SCU capacity create, and it's going to spin up a unit, an SCU unit. Once the unit is spun up in the portal, you can see you'll have an entry here. So like if you're doing it the way I do it, normally there's nothing listed here because it's turned off. But if you run that logic app, you're going to have a capacity here. And then when you want to start actually using it, you may want to bump up the number of units. So the logic app, in the way I have it configured, has got a one SCU. And if I wanted to increase the SCUs, then I can do so in here, but I'm not seeing the spot to do it. Settings, I thought it was right here. Number of units. Well, I swear I could change it from here the last time I was here. Here we go. They've moved it to update. They've moved it to, it's now in this spot, update security compute units. So I'm going to bump it up to 3 for a second. You know, the security compute units are essentially threads that of the Copilot for security, and 1 is the minimum, but you can, if you ask a query of a Security Copilot while it's answering it, then you can't, unless you have more threads available, then Security Copilot is unavailable in other embedded portals. So if you have multiple users in your company, you're going to have more than 1 unit, and Microsoft recommends that 3 is actually the minimum to be usable, and I would agree, right? The SCU capacity delete, I can run it when I'm done, and this is going to take my SCUs down to 0. But also, it runs. I've got it scheduled to run every day at 5 p.m. You can see it's running every day at 5 p.m. So it's kind of like a fail-safe. If I forget and I'm leaving it running, it'll always shut it off at the end of the workday so that costs don't run away. And while I'm here, I know we had a question about running Security Copilot automatically. Here's a logic app that I have that I have created, which utilizes submit a Copilot for security prompt. So this is a logic app that can be staged as a Microsoft Sentinel playbook, right? So here's a Microsoft Sentinel incident, and you can see that incident actions run playbook, and I can run this Copilot for security playbook that I have staged, and it will then run this query. You can see I have a large language model query that in the case of an incident, are any of the IPs especially, have they been seen before, right? And so I could stage this playbook to run automatically. That's the case where you would want to have SCUs running 24/7 because you're going to be automatically calling them from Sentinel when incidents happen. And when you have one run like that automatically, you can see down here in the incident comment field, the following comment was added by Copilot for security. So that's where the automatically launched inline Copilot for security data shows up in the comment field here. Here is the Copilot for security dedicated experience. The full, it's at securitycopilot.com. securitycopilot.microsoft.com. If you haven't spun up any secure computing units, then when you come here, you won't see this. You'll see a big dialog that says, "Hey, you haven't spun up any SCUs, so I can't do anything for you." But John, if you have,
excuse me for interrupting, but Neil had a question about: does that mean that you were being charged until 5 p.m.?
No, it's not. I'm being charged until I turn it off again. And I'm going to turn it off pretty soon after this session. But yeah, that's a great question. So when I come into my Copilot for security, for those of you that have been following our sessions, I have shown this off a little bit before. But under the sources, you can see I need to specifically grant Copilot for security access to my various security products like Sentinel, Purview, Intune. And by enabling access to these various Microsoft services, I can then ask Copilot for security questions like, what's happening in my Defender XDR? Who are my most risky users in Entra ID? Are there machines in Intune that are in a high-risk state? Right? Have I had any attempted Purview DLP violations? What is the riskiest Sentinel incident that I've had in the last week? These are all example free text questions that you can ask right here. I'm asking, asking
excuse me, John, while you're doing that, Neil also asked, can you find code injections to websites?
Well, you don't need Security Copilot for that. You need Defender for Cloud. Okay, so if you have Defender for Cloud turned on, and you have Security Copilot turned on with the Defender for Cloud snap-in enabled, then you can ask Copilot for security, have I had any SQL, have I had any IIS or SQL injection attempts? And if you have, then you can ask it more questions. So here's an example. I've asked it, what's the most serious incident I had in the last week? And it's preparing my response, and it's going to let me know. So gosh, we're really at time. So I apologize if I was too fast. Here on the screen, here's the Copilot integrated experience with Defender. You can see that each time I open an incident in the M365 Defender console, I get a Copilot, when I have Copilot for security SCUs enabled, this Copilot pane appears. It pops out and it gives me analysis, AI-assisted analysis. Likewise, in Defender for Cloud, when I have recommendations for compliance, when I have a Copilot for security enabled, this pane pops out and already provides analysis depending on the thing that I clicked. So that's how the dedicated and the different inline experiences work. So I will wrap things up and turn it over to you.
Wow. I mean, John, I just can't thank you enough for all the preparation. You did a ton of hours to prepare for this because, as you said, it's a fast-moving target. There's 117 different Copilots. Really, I learned a ton of things I didn't know before. So thanks again to everybody attending. Congratulate to you again, John, on your MVP award in Azure Management and Cloud Security. I posted your Amazon author page and want to encourage everybody. The other thing I did was I posted the future webinars. We're going to have another webinar. Our September 4th webinar is actually going to be on purview, data protection, governance, data loss prevention, and also we'll have another one October 2nd. I mentioned Michael Johnson asked about a deeper dive on Security Copilot and said that doing a much more extensive demo with Security Copilot is definitely on the roadmap for that. But before we close, John, there were a couple of extra questions. I want to make sure we did cover them, that this was asked before the webinar. So from John Hugh, he said, how can I properly protect IP from being ingested into Copilot? How can I properly protect my users from abusing Copilot? You kind of showed the abusing Copilot. You can turn it off for those users, but wasn't sure if you had
You can turn it off for selected users, and then you can protect your data using purview and Microsoft DLP policies, just like any other app.
So perfect for next month's webinar or September. Yeah, and then last one was you kind of showed this, but David Munson also asked, can output from one Copilot product be automatically fed into another to build reports? And that's what you showed with from
I
Word
would do it
into
with
Excel
Logic Apps. Yeah, I did. I showed you how you can generate something in one and then load it into the other, so you have a chain of apps, and then you can automate that through Logic Apps. So the answer is, if you could imagine it, yes, you can do it.
It's amazing. I mean, especially again for me, the PowerPoint piece, that one that you showed with the movies, I've generated a ton with the just graphics. Great, I can change the graphics out, better themes. It's really powerful. So thanks everybody for attending. We wish you all success. If you need any help deploying this with the Copilots or any other Microsoft solutions, or my colleague and I, Bush and I, are ready to help you. We know you're swamped with everything that you're working on, so let accountability take some of that pressure off of you. We want to build long-term relationships and help you be successful. Thanks, everybody. John, again, can't thank you enough, and wish everyone a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, John. Thank you.